dust, dung, and daybreak. Welcome back to Quiet Story, the place where history gently tucks you in, then quietly reminds you why you're lucky to live now and not then. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another half-awake journey into the past. And if you're watching this while lying in bed, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. We're always amazed at how many of you are drifting off at 3 a.m. with one sock on and a cat snoring beside you. Now lie back, relax, and imagine what it would really be like to wake up in the Wild West, unarmed, unwashed, and incredibly unprepared. You wake up choking on dust. Not the cozy kind of dust you find sunlit in a quiet attic. No, this is the kind that has been ground into every crevice of your bedding, your hair, your tongue. The kind that's been inhaled by livestock before you and will outlive you. It's gritty, dry, and inescapable, like a curse whispered by the wind itself. You cough. Something crunchy lands on your lip. You try not to investigate. You're in what passes for a barn, though barn is a generous word. The walls are warped, the beams creak like dying trees, and the roof politely declines to block the sky. Your bed is a collection of straw, fabric scraps, and maybe an old coat someone buried in panic. There is also something wet in one corner. You don't ask. Outside, the sky is a faded sheet of pale orange, turning the air golden but offering no warmth. A rooster lets out a strangled cry that sounds like it's begging for the end. You relate to him deeply. You sit up. Your body disagrees. Loudly. Your neck clicks, your back groans, and something in your knee sounds like a door hinge in a haunted saloon. You try to remember why you're here. Were you born into this life? Did you anger a powerful witch? Did someone dare you? Your blanket, an old potato sack that once tried to be a rug, falls away, revealing the same shirt you wore yesterday and the day before. It smells like horse breath and sour regret. The boots go on next. One is full of dead grass. The other is warm. You pretend not to notice. Something skitters out and disappears under the hay. You salute it. The wind outside whistles mournfully. Every creak of the barn sounds like it's calling you a coward. As you step outside, the world greets you not with sunshine or birdsong, but with a lowing cow stepping directly into its own waste, and a goat that looks at you like it knows your darkest secrets. Jedediah stands by the fence post, chewing something. It might be bark. It might be tobacco. It might be revenge. He grunts. You're late. Late for what? You ask. He shrugs. Doesn't matter. Things already went wrong. He tosses you a shovel. It's damp. You tell yourself it's morning dew. You know better. You follow him past the outhouse. The door is open. You glance in. You regret it. A crow squawks from the roof and then falls off. You pretend not to notice. Breakfast is already on the fire. Beans that have been overcooked into something resembling regret, and a black sludge in a tin cup that calls itself coffee. You drink it. It scalds your tongue and your pride. You feel neither more awake nor more alive. By 7:15 you've been kicked by a mule named Clara, been bitten by a chicken who apparently holds a grudge, dropped a can of molasses on your foot, and discovered your belt has been borrowed by a man named Dusty Jim, who is now asleep in a trough. The sun continues its slow rise, exposing every wrinkle in your skin, every patch of dust, every bad decision that led you here. The saloon bell rings in the distance. No one moves. You consider moving toward it, but then again, do you really want to find out what's inside that day? You lean against a post. It breaks. You sit in the dirt for a while, contemplating tumbleweeds. They drift freely, without obligation or shame. You envy them. They don't have to explain why they still haven't found their hat. Across the yard, someone yells, "Snake!" Then someone else yells, "Stick!" Then silence. You hope it was a stick. A dog wanders by. He gives you a look of genuine pity. You haven't brushed your teeth, mostly because your toothbrush was used to clean a rifle 2 weeks ago, and hasn't been seen since. Your breath smells like beans, hay, and a touch of fear. You close your eyes. Maybe if you stay still, you can merge with the dust. Become part of the background. Let the West forget you. But no. Jedediah slaps your shoulder. "Outhouse flooded again," he says. You nod. You don't ask how. The day has just begun. And already, it's winning. Outhouse catastrophes. You wake up dreading it. You feel it in your bones, in your gut, in the resigned way your eyes avoid the eastern edge of the yard. But there it is, squatting in the distance like some feral creature waiting to devour hope. The outhouse. No one talks about it unless they have to, and even then, they lower their voice, like it might hear. It leans, just slightly, like it's always a few seconds away from collapse, but never quite falls. The door is ajar as always, because it doesn't close right anymore, and the crescent moon cut into its front has warped with time into something resembling a grimace. You hear flies before you see them. You hear the buzz before you smell the stench, and the stench before you feel the heat. It's a presence. The outhouse doesn't just exist, it radiates suffering. Jedediah once told you never to knock, because if there's something inside, it's better not to know. You thought he was being dramatic. You were wrong. The last person to enter and not come out immediately was Silas, and no one talks about Silas anymore. They say he moved on. They say he found gold. But everyone knows what happened. And no one digs behind the outhouse. You inch toward it, already regretting your humanity and all its digestive consequences. It's a choice between internal combustion and psychological warfare. You choose war. Your foot hits something soft. You look down. A heap of socks. Probably abandoned by those who lost the will to continue. You step over them. You touch the door. It moans. You open it. The inside is darker than it should be. Light filters in through cracks, but not enough. It always feels like it's dusk in there, even at noon. The seat is worse than memory serves. The plank is warped and damp from causes unknown. The hole in the middle feels too wide, too deep, like you might fall into another dimension, one ruled by creatures that have long forgotten the sun. You hold your breath. You lower yourself with care born only of terror. You sit. Instantly, the wood bites back, a splinter, large and personal. You clench everything and begin a countdown to freedom. That's when the noises start. A scratching. A gurgle. The wall vibrates gently, and you realize something is alive inside the structure. You freeze. You listen. The scratching becomes a thumping. A tail slaps the underside of the seat. Something hisses. Is it a snake? A raccoon? A lizard of biblical size and attitude? You no longer care. You leap up. You slam your head on the low beam. You stagger, half-pantsed, through the door and out into the daylight, dignity trailing behind you like a ghost. Jedediah watches from the porch. He's chewing something that may be bark. He nods once. "It lives," he says, and turns away. You wonder if he meant you or the thing inside. You compose yourself. You fix your pants. You try not to cry. But your day isn't done. No, because you still have to report it. The outhouse has activity, as they say, which means you're responsible for fetching the bucket. The bucket is not for cleaning. It's for flushing. And it's not water inside. It's lie. And prayers. And maybe salt, in case of spirits. You approach the shed where the bucket lies. You knock, because again, you never assume safety. The bucket is there, alone. Cold metal, slightly bent, half full of caustic sludge and things that used to be food. You lift it carefully. Your fingers already sting. You carry it like a cursed relic toward the outhouse, where the buzzing has intensified. You hope you're not too late. You pour it in. There is a sizzle. Then a scream, not yours. Not human. The outhouse shakes. The flies scatter. You close the door slowly, reverently. You return the bucket. You sit on a nearby stump and try not to remember what you just heard. The sun is higher now. The heat is unbearable. Your clothes are stuck to you in all the worst places. You haven't had breakfast. You've barely survived. And it's not even mid-morning. You see a chicken pecking near the outhouse. It pauses. It looks at you. It walks away slowly, shaking its head. You understand. Deeply. Inside, your body still needs relief, but your soul has nothing left. You decide to try again tomorrow. Or never. Whichever feels safer. Behind you, the outhouse sighs. You do not turn around. The beans are always burned. The first thing you notice about breakfast is the smell, and it's not a good sign. It's not the warm, savory kind of scent you might hope for. No wafts of butter melting over cornbread. No cheerful hiss of bacon in a pan. No hint of coffee strong enough to resurrect a man. No, it's a dry, acrid stench, the sharp sting of overboiled despair and something vaguely metallic. Someone is burning beans. Again. Not just any beans. The same beans they'd been burning every morning since the invention of fire. Or so it seems. Pinto, mostly. Or navy. Or maybe they started out as something else entirely. But the long hours in the pot have rendered them indistinguishable. Tan, grayish-brown lumps of protein-soaked hopelessness, floating in a sludge thicker than reason. They've been cooked on the same pan since before the war, and the pan has not been cleaned since then either. Jedediah, once again, is stirring with the same black and iron spoon he uses for everything, including digging, threatening raccoons, and you strongly suspect, dental hygiene. The spoon clangs gently against the bottom of the pot, which is permanently scorched, like a pot within a pot, one real, one burned into the memory of metal. You're not sure whether you're smelling today's disaster or yesterday's leftovers. But no one complains. Not because they like it, but because complaining doesn't change anything, and it might get you assigned to latrine duty. The rule is simple: eat what's served or chew your boots, and most people have already tried the boots. The beans bubble. You don't see flames, but you can hear the crackle, the slow, malevolent sound of something being annihilated cell by cell. Jedediah doesn't speak. He never does when he cooks. He just glares into the pot like he's seeing the ghost of every meal he's ever ruined. His jaw works slowly, side to side, like he's chewing the ghost of flavor. The camp gathers, listless, hungry, resigned. Plates are issued, tin, warped, spotted with dents and memories. You stand in line, stomach grumbling, but without joy. You know what's coming. You've known since the day you arrived. One scoop. That's all you get. That's all anyone gets. The ladle descends. The beans slide out with a wet slurp, landing on your plate like a failed promise. They do not steam. They do not shine. They simply exist, sticky and still. Occasionally a burned husk of onion surfaces from the paste, like a shipwrecked sailor waving for help. There is bread, technically. A hardtack square that was probably fresh last decade. You knock it against the table to test for life. It holds. It always holds. You sit. You stare. You consider escape. But where would you go? There is no breakfast out there. No one wakes up early to make eggs over the fire. This isn't a novel. This is the West. And in the West, flavor is treason and seasoning is a myth passed down from the old world. You pick up your spoon. It's warm from the sun but cold in spirit. You dip it into the beans and it resists. The paste is thick. Too thick. Almost solid. It peels back like a curtain and reveals something blackened and oozing near the center, the core of the burn, the place where time no longer flows. You scoop. You chew. The texture is wrong. Grainy. Like sand and regret. The taste is bitter sharp, like rust soaked in molasses. Your jaw moves out of obligation, not desire. Someone coughs nearby. Not from sickness, but from memory. You eat in silence, surrounded by others doing the same. No one speaks. Conversation takes energy, and beans don't give energy. They take it. You finish. You think about seconds. You do not ask. No one ever does. Jedediah looks up briefly. His eyes are distant, glassy. He says nothing. He just lifts the pot slightly, lets the crust stick and bubble, and nods like a man who has once again defeated the concept of nutrition. Behind you, the sun rises higher. The heat deepens. Your stomach churns in rebellion. You feel heavier, not full. Not satisfied. Just more present than you want to be. The beans sit like a stone tribunal, deciding your fate from within. You know what's coming. The outhouse waits. The circle continues. Breakfast is not a meal. It is a ritual. A punishment. A warning. And tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, the beans will be burned again. Because they always are. Saloon sadness. You walk into the saloon because there's nowhere else to go. Not for company, not for excitement, not even for a drink. Just for the illusion of relief from a day that's been slowly draining your will to continue since sunrise. The door creaks with theatrical slowness, swinging open with a sound so dry and strained it reminds you of old joints and even older regrets. Dust kicks up as your boots cross the threshold, settling instantly into your teeth, your eyes, your spirit. The room is dim, lit only by the weak light that manages to squeeze through the filthy windows. And everything has the color of stale gravy, brown, beige, tan, gray, and whatever sickly shade the wallpaper has become after 2 decades of cigar smoke and human exhalation. The floor is sticky. It shouldn't be. No one knows why. The bartender doesn't look up. He's polishing a glass that's been scratched so many times it resembles frosted crystal. He's not really cleaning it. He's just moving the grime around with a cloth that might once have been white. You walk to the bar. You sit on a stool that wobbles like it's trying to escape. You don't speak. You don't have to. He knows what you want. He always knows. But he pours wrong anyway. He reaches under the bar, not into a fridge, because refrigeration is a cruel joke out here, and brings out a bottle that's probably older than the piano in the corner. He doesn't pour it into a proper glass. He pours it into a chipped mug that still has someone's initials scratched on the side. You don't ask whose. No one asks anything. You sip. It's warm. Of course it's warm. Not warm like a fine cognac. Not warm like a civilized drink by a fire. It's body temperature. Not your body, but the body of a man who's been laying in the sun for too long. It tastes like corn, rage, and turpentine. There's a trace of something sweet that vanishes before you can name it. You keep drinking. It doesn't help. Nothing helps. The piano starts playing. Or rather, someone starts trying to play it. It's a tune you almost recognize, a waltz maybe, or a dirge, but the keys are off. Not just out of tune, but missing entirely in some spots. The player doesn't stop. He doesn't even look up. His fingers mash the notes with the grim determination of someone trying to summon a demon by brute force. You look over. It's Buck. It's always Buck. No one knows where he came from. No one knows what he wants. He just plays, endlessly, brokenly, like the song will somehow fix what the whiskey can't. The other patrons are scattered across the room like abandoned props. One man in the corner is sleeping with his eyes open. Another is playing solitaire with half a deck and too many kings. A woman in a faded red dress stares at nothing, sipping something clear from a cracked glass with a spider web in it. You realize you haven't spoken in hours. Maybe days. You try to say something. The words come out dry and stupid. "Rough night?" you offer. The bartender doesn't answer. He's still polishing that same damn glass. It might be fused to his hand. You look at the wall. There's a mirror, but it's too clouded to reflect anything properly. You think you see yourself in it, just barely, and it's not good. You look tired. You look lost. You look exactly like everyone else. You look away. The piano hits a note so flat it sounds like the end of the world. Someone coughs. Someone else laughs, a dry, rattling sound that might have been a sob once. Outside, the wind howls against the building. The shutters rattle. You wonder if the saloon has ever been quiet, ever been clean, ever smelled like anything but whiskey, pipe ash, and old regret. The bartender finally speaks. "Storm's comin'," he says, not to you, not to anyone. Just to the room. Just to fill the space between piano notes. You nod. It doesn't matter. Everything out here is either storm or aftermath. You drink again. The mug is nearly empty. You don't remember drinking that much. You don't remember arriving. You don't remember why you came. You don't ask for another. He pours one anyway. The bottle never runs out. The piano keeps playing. The tune warps into something mournful. You listen. You let it wash over you like warm bath water that's already gone cold. The stool creaks under your weight. You don't care. You lean on the bar. Your head is heavy. Your bones feel soft. Outside, a dog barks once, then goes quiet. The room feels underwater now, like time has thickened into syrup and everything moves a few seconds behind your thoughts. You look again at the woman in the corner. She hasn't moved. You wonder if she's breathing. You don't check. You drink. The whiskey still tastes like something meant for cleaning wounds or starting fires. You feel neither cleaner nor warmer. The bartender stops polishing the glass. He sets it down. He looks at you for the first time. "Ain't no fixin' nothin' out here," he says, and picks up another glass. Starts again. You nod again, because what else can you do? Buck hits a minor chord that sounds like it hurts. The woman in red finally blinks. Someone whispers something to no one. You finish your drink. You leave the mug. You stand. The stool sighs with relief. You turn for the door. It swings open before you touch it. The wind welcomes you with dust and noise. You step into the light. It's too bright. You squint. You cough. You wonder what time it is. You wonder if it matters. Behind you, the saloon door swings closed, creaking again like it always does, sealing you out of the one place you didn't want to be. You walk down the road. You don't know where you're going. But you're sure of one thing, you'll be back. Everyone comes back. No one leaves the saloon for good. The whiskey's warm. The bartender doesn't care. And the piano's still broken. But it's the only place that understands. You can't ride a horse, and now everyone knows it. It begins with confidence. That dangerous, fleeting thing. The kind of confidence that grows not from experience, but from watching other people do something and thinking, how hard can it be? You've seen it 1,000 times. A cowboy riding off into the sunset, reins in one hand, hat tilted low, some quiet squint of determination across his dusty face. That's what you expected. That's the image you carried into this day like a talisman. That was your mistake. Because you, quite simply, cannot ride a horse. The horse knows this. Everyone else knows this now, too. You are about to know it in ways you didn't think possible. The horse, a brown and gray monstrosity named Clementine, is not impressed with you. You tried to greet her with a pat and a whispered, "Hey, girl," but she responded by snorting a thick, hot gust of air into your face that smelled like hay, old oats, and contempt. Her eyes followed you like she was calculating the precise moment gravity would do its job. She was right to be skeptical. You stepped into the stirrup with what you believed was authority. You threw your leg over the saddle and, for a single, shining second, you were on top. You had done it. You were a rider. You were high above the ground. You were a god. And then your foot slipped. It was the left one. It missed the stirrup entirely and swung too wide. You pitched forward. Not dramatically. Not cinematically. Just pathetically. Like a sack of laundry collapsing into a chair. The saddle horn caught your stomach, then your weight shifted, and your dignity followed, tumbling off the other side with a soft, betrayed thump. You landed in the dirt. A thick cloud of dust rose around you like a slow-motion sigh. The horse didn't move. She just blinked. Behind you. Someone chuckled. You don't know who. It could have been anyone. It could have been everyone. It could have been the dog tied to the fence, who you swear was smirking. You got back up. You said something like, "Just testing the ground." No one laughed. Not this time. Pity had started to set in. And that was worse. You tried again. This time you got into the saddle. Barely. The stirrups weren't adjusted, so your knees were somewhere near your ears. Your spine immediately regretted the life choices that had brought it to this moment. The saddle felt like a medieval torture device. It creaked ominously with every shift of your weight, groaning like it, too, was tired of your optimism. You picked up the reins. You clicked your tongue, just like they do in the dime novels. Clementine did not move. You clicked again. Nothing. You tried words. "Let's go, girl." Nothing. You tried nudging. Still nothing. You finally gave her a firm heel in the side, and Clementine took off, but not forward. She spun in place. A slow, lazy circle like a dance for one. You clutched the horn, tried to steer, tried to look like you were in control, but it was obvious. She was in charge. You were cargo. The circle widened. Then suddenly she did move, forward, fast, without warning. The kind of forward that knocks the wind from your lungs and tilts the world sideways. You bounced. You gripped with your thighs. You remembered someone once said, "Ride with your hips." You didn't know what that meant. You still don't. Your hat flew off. Your pride followed. You couldn't balance. Every step she took felt like a personal attack. Your teeth rattled. Your vision blurred. You clung to the reins like a man begging for forgiveness. The saddle creaked louder, angry now. You tried to stop her. You pulled the reins. She turned left, hard. You leaned the other way. You nearly went airborne. Someone shouted. It wasn't encouragement. It was warning. You didn't hear it in time. There was a trough. You hit it. Not her, you. Your leg caught the edge, your boot slipped, and you tumbled sideways again. This time there was no dust. Just mud. Cold, wet, gritty, You came up coughing, soaked, your shirt clinging like desperation, your hat nowhere to be seen, your boots full of water and shame. Clementine wandered off. She wasn't running. She wasn't fleeing. She was just done. Like the show was over. She went to stand under a tree and ignore you. The silence from the others was the worst part. Not laughter now. Not even mockery. Just silence. Judgment. A long, slow appraisal of your life, your choices, your worth. No one helped you up. That would be worse, somehow. You stood, trembling, sore, wet, broken. A child in a grown person's clothes. Someone finally spoke. Maybe try a mule next time. You nodded once. You couldn't argue. You couldn't speak. You limped to the fence, climbed over it like a man who'd aged a decade in 30 minutes, and sat down in the sun. You watched Clementine eat grass and pretend you'd never existed. The others wandered off, disinterested now. There was nothing more to see. The dirt dried on your clothes. The mud cracked on your skin. The ache in your legs deepened. But worse than all that was the knowledge, the certainty, that now, everyone knows. You can't ride a horse. You never could. And the West doesn't forgive that kind of thing. Snake bites and sunburn, you survived the day, but not the lizard. The sun's first light isn't gentle here. It's a brutal, scorching force that blazes across the endless desert plains like a roaring furnace, sucking every drop of moisture from the air and from your very skin. When it rises over the jagged horizon, the world turns into a vast, shimmering heatwave, a place where even the shadows feel like punishment. You stand there, parched and weary, feeling the sting of 1,000 invisible needles piercing your exposed arms and neck. Your clothes cling to you, soaked with sweat that's already starting to dry and crust over in salty patches, and your throat feels like it's swallowed sandpaper. This is no place for the unprepared, and yet here you are, foolishly thinking you could outwit the dangers that lurk in every crevice of this harsh landscape. You remember the warnings shouted by grizzled cowhands and grumpy settlers, warnings about rattlesnakes, scorpions, and the deadly sun that would burn flesh off your bones if you weren't careful. But warnings are just stories, aren't they? You thought you could handle it. You thought you were ready. You were wrong. The ground underfoot is cracked and dry, littered with brittle twigs and stones that crunch with every step. You walk cautiously through scrub and cactus, the sharp needles brushing against your trousers and drawing tiny, burning scratches. Your boots kick up clouds of dust, and your eyes sting as grains of sand catch the corners of your lids. Then, out of nowhere, a sudden, sharp rattle cuts through the silence. Your heart jumps into your throat. You freeze, every muscle tense like a coiled spring. The sound grows louder, more insistent. Your eyes dart wildly over the cracked earth and tangled brush. And then, just as you shift your weight to back away, a sudden strike, fast and cruel, delivers a bite to your ankle. The pain is immediate, searing like a brand pressed into your skin. Your breath catches, your knees buckle, and you collapse into the dirt, the harsh world spinning around you. You're alone, miles from help. The venom seeps through your veins, a silent assassin creeping through your body, shutting down nerves, and burning from the inside out. You try to stay calm, but the pain intensifies with every passing second, a hot, spreading fire that threatens to engulf your whole leg. You fumble for your gear, searching for anything that can help, your knife, a piece of cloth, a belt to make a tourniquet. Your hands shake uncontrollably, slick with sweat and dust, fumbling uselessly. The sun above beats down without mercy, turning your skin raw, burning your face and arms until they feel like they are melting. You try to shield your eyes, but the glare is unrelenting. Your lips crack and bleed, your tongue feels thick and swollen. Every breath feels like breathing through fire. The desert around you feels both vast and suffocating. The mesquite trees provide little relief, their sparse shade barely blocking the brutal light. As you crawl toward the faint shelter of a thorny bush, your swollen ankle throbs violently, each heartbeat sending shockwaves of agony up your leg. You are dizzy, nauseous, and the venom's effects are growing. Your vision blurs. You feel feverish, weak, slipping in and out of consciousness. The lizards you had seen skittering across the rocks now seem to mock you with their cold, unblinking eyes, flicking their tongues as if tasting your misery. You think about the stories of cowboys who never made it out alive, their bodies baked and bleached by the sun, their faces frozen in eternal grimaces of pain and regret. You imagine yourself lying here, forgotten, a mere footnote in the brutal history of the Wild West. But somehow, despite the pain and despair, you force yourself to keep moving. You drag your swollen leg forward, inch by agonizing inch, desperate to reach safety. Hours pass in a haze of pain and heat. Your skin blisters painfully, the sun's rays searing the exposed flesh, leaving red, angry marks that throb in time with your heartbeat. Your throat is dry and raw, and you can barely swallow. Every sound is muffled, distant, as if you're underwater. You can hear the rattling of snakes nearby, their warning buzz a constant reminder of the dangers lurking in every shadow. The desert has no compassion. The sun does not forgive. The snakes do not care. And you are left to endure it all, the biting venom, the scorching heat, the relentless silence, alone. At last, when your strength nearly gives out, you stumble into a dusty trail, where a faint plume of smoke rises from a distant homestead. Hope sparks in your chest. You push forward, ignoring the pain, ignoring the swelling, ignoring the sunburn that has turned your skin into a raw, aching canvas. You arrive, broken but alive, the sun setting behind you like a fiery warning. You have survived the snakebite and the sunburn, but just barely. The Wild West has marked you, and it will not soon forget. Gunfights are not cool, you're scared. Your hands shake, and your revolver is rusty. The moment you realize a gunfight is about to happen, your heart skips a beat, then races like a runaway horse. It's not the cool, Hollywood-style showdown you've seen in dime novels or silent films. It's chaos, sweat, and panic all rolled into one dreadful, unbearable instant. The air is thick with dust, tension, and the smell of old leather mixed with sweat and gunpowder. Your hands tremble uncontrollably, gripping the handle of your revolver, which feels heavier than you expected. Rust spots pockmark its metal, and the trigger is sticky from months of neglect. You wonder if it will even fire. You've heard tales of quick-draw legends, but now that you stand face to face with a snarling adversary, you realize none of those stories prepared you for this. Your fingers fumble clumsily over the worn grip, your sweaty palms making it hard to keep a steady aim. Every nerve in your body screams for you to run, but you're rooted to the spot, frozen by fear and adrenaline. The crowd around you blurs into a murmuring haze, faces indistinct and meaningless as your eyes lock onto your opponent's cold, hard stare. He's calm, deadly, and much more experienced. You notice the subtle twitch of his hand near his holster, the signal that this nightmare is about to explode. Time seems to slow. You hear the distant clang of spurs on wooden planks, the rattle of horses tied outside the saloon, the faint creak of swinging doors. Your breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps, and your vision tunnels, focusing solely on the revolver in your hand and the man standing before you. You try to steady your breathing, willing your hands to stop shaking, but they betray you. The revolver wobbles, the barrel dipping low, barely pointing toward your target. You hear a sudden shout, maybe a warning, maybe a curse, and the world jerks violently as shots ring out. The crack of gunfire is deafening. It's not the smooth, dramatic draw-on fire of stories. It's messy, disorganized, and terrifying. You flinch as bullets whistle past your ears, kicking up clouds of dust and debris. The smell of gunpowder burns your nose. Your ears ring with the echo of the shots, and your hands shake so violently you almost drop your weapon. You try to aim, but panic and inexperience make it impossible. You pull the trigger, and the revolver coughs, once, twice, spitting out a few errant shots that miss wide. Your opponent moves fast, disappearing behind a barrel, then reappearing with deadly accuracy. You hear a sharp yelp. Someone's been hit. Chaos erupts all around you. Your mind races, but your body doesn't respond. You want to run, to dive for cover, but your feet feel glued to the ground. The crowd scatters, some screaming, some frozen in shock. Dust and smoke fill the air, and the sharp stench of blood mingles with the acrid smell of burnt gunpowder. Every second drags like an eternity. You're caught in a nightmare you never imagined you'd face. The stories of glory and honor vanish in the chaos, replaced by pure, raw terror. The gunfight is not cool. It is brutal, ugly, and deadly. You realize your revolver is more of a relic than a weapon, rusty, unreliable, a poor defense against a practiced gunfighter. Your heart pounds, your hands bleed from gripping the metal too hard. Your chance of survival depends on luck, speed, and the hope that your opponent is as clumsy as you are. The dust settles, the shots cease, and the silence is terrifying. You look around and see the consequences: wounded bodies, shattered bottles, broken dreams. You have survived, but just barely. The Wild West has shown you its cruel face once again. Dust storms in your teeth, and you can't clean them, because toothbrushes aren't really a thing yet. The Wild West is infamous for its relentless, unyielding dust. It's not just a minor nuisance, it's a constant, pervasive enemy that invades every corner of your life, saturating the air and coating everything you own in a fine, choking powder. You wake up in your cabin, or more likely under the open sky, with grit in your mouth, eyes, and nose, feeling like you've spent the night inside a dusty coffin. The dry, arid winds don't just carry heat. They bring fine particles of sand, dirt, and pulverized rock that scratch your skin, sting your eyes, and fill your mouth with a dryness so complete it feels like swallowing sandpaper. There's no escaping it, especially because this isn't just dust. It's a storm. The kind of storm that comes suddenly, whirring across the plains and hills, blotting out the sun with a towering, brown cloud of particulate matter so thick it turns daylight into twilight. The wind howls like a wild animal, shrieking through the canyons and rattling the wooden planks of the saloon. You hear the eerie sound of loose objects being tossed and slammed, horses neighing anxiously, and the desperate shouts of cowhands struggling to protect their gear and livestock. Caught outside when the storm hits is a nightmare. You can barely open your eyes, and the dust stings relentlessly behind your eyelids, scraping away the moisture that tries to protect your sight. Your lungs burn as you gasp for breath, inhaling grit that lacerates the delicate tissues inside your throat and nasal passages. You cover your face with a bandana or your sleeve, but the fine particles still find their way inside, settling in your mouth where they mix with your saliva to form an abrasive paste that grinds against your teeth. Each swallow feels like sandpaper scratching your tongue and gums. You try to spit, but the dust sticks stubbornly, clinging to your tongue and teeth, turning your mouth into a rough desert canyon of its own. Water is scarce, precious, and almost always reserved for drinking, not rinsing your mouth. There are no toothbrushes here, no modern dental hygiene products to save you from this daily assault. The closest you might get to cleaning your teeth is chewing on a twig or rinsing with a splash of river water if you're lucky enough to find some. Over time, this unrelenting dust coats your teeth with a gritty film that wears down enamel, making every bite of hardtack or jerky a painful reminder of the West's unforgiving nature. Cavities and tooth decay go untreated, causing chronic pain that gnaws away at your concentration and spirits. The smell of dusty, dry breath follows you everywhere, a social stigma in a world where close quarters and tight-knit communities make personal hygiene a matter of reputation and survival. When the dust finally settles after hours or even days, it leaves behind a world transformed. Buildings, wagons, horses, and people all wear a fine, gray-brown layer of dirt, dulling colors and muffling sounds. Clothes become stiff and rough, skin feels dry and cracked, and every crevice is filled with the dust's invasive presence. Your mouth continues to taste like the desert floor, and you know the battle to keep your teeth and gums healthy is a losing one. The dust storm is not just a physical trial, it's a mental one. It tests your patience, your endurance, and your hope. It's a reminder that the Wild West doesn't just threaten your life with gunfights or outlaws, but also with the slow, grinding misery of everyday survival. You grit your teeth, literally and figuratively, as you push forward through the dirt-filled wind, knowing this is the world you live in, harsh, dusty, and unrelenting. Bank robbery blues. You just wanted to withdraw a few cents, and walked into a shootout. You thought a bank was a place of order, a sanctuary amid the chaos of the Wild West. You just wanted to withdraw a few cents, maybe pay a debt, or buy some supplies, or check on whatever little savings you had managed to hold on to. The door creaked as you pushed it open, the familiar jingle of the bell barely registering in your anxious mind. Inside, the bank was quiet, smelling faintly of old leather, wood polish, and the faint metallic tang of coins. The clerk behind the counter looked up, his eyes tired but polite beneath a dust-streaked hat. There were a few other customers, silent and wary, some whispering low in corners, others nervously eyeing the door. It was a place to conduct business, nothing more. You took a cautious step forward, feeling the weight of a revolver at your hip, not that you wanted to think about trouble here. You just wanted your money. But the Wild West rarely lets you have what you want without a fight. Suddenly, the air shifted. A loud, violent crash echoed through the wooden walls as the bank's swinging doors were kicked open with such force that they slammed against the walls. A cloud of dust and wood splinters filled the air. You barely had time to register what was happening before a gang of outlaws stormed in, guns drawn and eyes wild with desperation and greed. The leader barked orders, voice sharp as a whip crack. "Hands up! Everybody on the floor! Nobody moves!" His words cut through the stunned silence like a knife. Panic rippled through the room. People dropped their belongings and scrambled for cover, knocking over chairs and papers in their haste. You dove behind the counter, heart pounding so loud it felt like it would burst through your chest. Your fingers clenched around your revolver, but your hands shook so badly you weren't sure you could even hold it steady. Around you, chaos erupted. Bullets cracked through the air, striking wood and metal with terrifying sound. The sharp scent of gunpowder filled your nostrils. The bank clerk, usually a picture of calm, was now fumbling with trembling hands at the safe, forced by the robbers to open it. Sweat poured down his face as the leader paced impatiently, counting the stacks of bills and bags of coins with greedy eyes. The noise of shouts, gunfire, and panicked cries filled the room, mixing into a cacophony of fear. You saw a man near the door slump suddenly, clutching his stomach, blood soaking through his shirt. A woman sobbed quietly in a corner, shielding a child who looked as frightened as you felt. The dust kicked up by the commotion coated everything, the floor, the walls, the people, in a fine, choking layer. There was no time for heroics. The shootout was a mess of confusion and terror. No one took aim carefully. Bullets flew wildly, tearing through wood, glass, and flesh alike. You pressed yourself down, barely breathing, willing yourself to be invisible. Every noise made you jump, a gunshot too close, a scream too sharp. You could feel the sweat mingling with the dirt and blood on your skin, your mouth dry and gritty from fear and dust. Your teeth ground together so hard it hurt, but you couldn't stop. The pounding in your ears made it hard to think, the adrenaline a cruel, exhausting rush. When it was over, suddenly, almost anticlimactically, the robbers grabbed their loot and fled out the door, disappearing into the blazing sun and dusty streets as fast as they had come. The survivors slowly lifted their heads, eyes wide and blank, shaking and broken. You stepped outside, the bright sunlight almost painful after the dim, smoke-filled interior. The town around you looked the same, but nothing was the same anymore. You had come to the bank for a simple transaction, but walked into a nightmare you wouldn't soon forget. In the Wild West, even the most mundane task could turn deadly in a heartbeat. You realize now that survival here isn't just about being tough or fast. It's about luck, nerves of steel, and hoping you're never in the wrong place at the wrong time. Campfire complaints, campfire stories that only make things worse. The sun finally dips behind jagged horizons, and a chill begins to creep into the air. You're bone-tired, muscles aching from a day of hauling, riding, or just trying to survive in this merciless land. At last, you reach the camp, a small circle of wagons, a few scattered tents, and a fire pit surrounded by stones, glowing with warm orange flames. The scent of dry pine wood burning, mixed with the faint smell of sweat and dust, wraps around you like a grim comfort. You collapse on a rough log, hoping the firelight will chase away the darkness lurking in your mind. But here, around these crackling flames, the night has a way of turning even the faintest hope into a tangled mess of fears and whispered horrors. Campfire talk in the West isn't about silly jokes or heartwarming tales. It's about complaints, bitter, raw, and unfiltered. They're stories born from real pain and danger, sharpened by desperation and loneliness. Each tale that floats up from the circle feels like a stone sinking into your chest, weighing heavier with every breath. One of the cowhands, his face weathered like old leather, starts off quietly. "Last week, I was out near Dead Man's Creek, and I swear, a rattler struck right at my ankle. I didn't feel it at first, thought it was just a twig or a rock. Next thing, my leg was burning up like hellfire." His voice drops, eyes haunted. "If I hadn't had that damn whiskey in my canteen, I wouldn't be here to tell it. That venom, it ain't just pain, it's like your blood turns to poison inside you." He stares into the flames as if reliving the agony, and you shudder despite the warmth on your skin. A woman, younger and trembling, adds her own shadow to the fire's dance. And then there's the wailing woman from Widow's Gulch. Folks say if you hear her scream in the dead of night, it means death's coming for you. Some say she was a bride who lost her man to a bandit's bullet, now cursed to roam forever. Her voice is barely above a whisper, and the wind outside seems to answer, carrying a mournful howl that makes your heart skip. You want to scoff, but something primal in you feels the weight of the tale, like a chill slipping down your spine. Then an old prospector, face creased with years of sun and dirt, leans forward, voice rough as gravel. "You think your troubles are bad? I knew a man robbed a stagecoach, escaped the law, but never escaped the curse he brought on himself. They say he was hunted by ghosts, spirits of the ones he killed, until he vanished without a trace." He spits on the ground, eyes cold. "Out here, trust is a luxury you can't afford. Every shadow hides a threat, every stranger could be the last you ever see." The stories pile up, one after another, like layers of dust settling on your weary soul. There's talk of disease spreading through camps faster than fire and dry grass, of desperate men turning on each other for a scrap of food, of nights so cold and dark that even the stars seem to hide their light. Each story adds weight to the heavy silence that falls between speakers, filling it with unspoken fears. Your throat dries, your fingers twitch with unease. The firelight flickers across faces grim and drawn, eyes reflecting 1,000 hard-lived stories. Every crackle from the burning wood sounds like a warning shot. Every shadow cast by the fire seems to hide lurking dangers, rattlers, bandits, sickness, or worse. You realize that these campfire complaints aren't just stories. They're survival manuals written in fear. They remind you that the West isn't a place for hope or comfort, but a brutal test of endurance where every day could be your last. The fire that warms you also casts long, dark shadows, and sometimes those shadows reach out. When the stories finally trail off, a heavy quiet falls over the camp. The fire burns lower, and you wonder if you'll find rest tonight. The night feels thicker somehow, the cold closer, the dangers nearer. You lie back, eyes fixed on the stars, but sleep feels like a stranger, slipping just beyond your grasp. The campfire's glow fades, but the complaints linger, a restless echo in the vast, merciless darkness of the Wild West. Stampede of regret, you caused a panic. In the cattle, and in yourself. The sun hovers low on the horizon, bleeding a deep amber glow across the endless expanse of cracked earth and scrub brush. The air is thick with heat and dust, a relentless combination that clings to your skin like a second layer. You stand on a ridge, eyes scanning the herd below, hundreds of restless cattle clustered in a wide, uneven mass. Their heavy breaths stir clouds of dust that rise and fall with the movement of their hooves. Your job here is simple in theory but brutal in practice. Keep the herd calm, prevent them from bolting, keep them from destroying fences, and keep them alive. It sounds straightforward. Just watch, guide, and herd. But the Wild West has a way of twisting simple tasks into life-or-death challenges. You pace slowly along the fence line, the rough wood scraping against your palm as you try to appear calm and confident. Your voice is steady as you call out to the cattle. A low, soothing murmur meant to steady their nerves. But beneath your practiced calm, your heart pounds, knowing just how quickly things can unravel. The herd is skittish. Every flick of a tail or sudden noise could set off a chain reaction. And then, without warning, it happens. A sudden crack rings out, maybe a twig snapped under the hoof of a hidden predator or a startled coyote. Whatever the cause, the herd reacts instantly, head snapping up, ears pricked, nostrils flaring wide as if tasting danger in the air. The calm that had settled over them breaks like a shattered mirror, splintering into pure panic. Within seconds, the entire herd is on the move, a tidal wave of muscle, hooves, and raw terror surging forward with a terrifying force. The ground beneath you vibrates like an earthquake as hundreds of cattle thunder past, their bellowing cries echoing across the plains. Your breath catches in your throat, and panic flares inside you. You shout, wave your arms, try desperately to turn the herd, but it's useless. The momentum of the stampede is unstoppable. You're no longer a calm observer. You're caught in the chaos, running alongside beasts many times your size, their wild eyes reflecting your own fear. The dust kicks up in choking clouds, blinding you as you stumble, heart hammering so loud you fear it might burst. You can barely see the ground beneath your feet, only the roar of hooves and the sound of bodies crashing into each other. Fences break under the force, wooden posts splintering like twigs. Packs of horses panic and scatter, some thrown to the dirt in the frenzy. Nearby, fellow cowhands scramble to safety, shouting warnings and cursing the disaster, but no one can stop the flood of terrified cattle. You glimpse a fallen calf, trampled and struggling weakly beneath the weight of the herd. Your chest twists in helpless agony. There's nothing you can do but keep moving, keep breathing, keep surviving. Memories flash through your mind. Every warning you ignored, every careless step, every sound you failed to anticipate. The regret is a heavy stone pressing on your chest, heavier than the dust in your lungs. You remember the old-timer's words. One wrong move, and you'll bring down the whole herd. Now you know it's true. Minutes feel like hours as the stampede finally begins to lose momentum. The ground settles, the dust slowly clears, and the herd finally breaks into smaller groups, grazing nervously and shaking off the terror. But you are left trembling, sweat-soaked, lungs burning, the full weight of your mistake crushing you. The broken fences, the scattered cattle, the worried faces of your companions, all reminders that in the Wild West, one moment of panic can turn a routine day into a disaster. You realize something else. This land, these animals, the very air you breathe, demand constant vigilance, respect, and strength. There is no room for error. And you caused this chaos. You don't just feel regret. You feel small, fragile, and painfully aware of your place in this harsh, relentless world. The sun sinks slower, the sky bleeding purple and gold as you look out over the ruined pasture. The cattle, once a powerful, unstoppable force, are now uneasy, uncertain, but alive. You're alive too, but for how long, and at what cost? As the fireflies begin to flicker in the cooling air, you know tomorrow will bring new challenges. And the memory of this stampede, this moment of terror and regret, will haunt you long after the dust settles. Cactus Confessions, you're talking to a plant. And it may be judging you. The desert sprawls endlessly in every direction, an unforgiving wasteland of blistering sun, cracked earth, and sparse, thorny vegetation. Around you, the ground bakes like a giant griddle, radiating heat so intense it seems to burn straight through your boots. The air is dry, whispering in sharp gusts that stir up clouds of dust and grit, scratching at your skin and filling your nostrils. Here, the world is a harsh lesson in survival, and the cactus is its quiet, stoic teacher. You find yourself standing beside a massive saguaro cactus, its thick arms reaching upward like twisted green sculptures forged by centuries of relentless wind and sun. Each arm bristles with sharp needles, hundreds, maybe thousands, like nature's own barbed wire. It looks imposing, unmoving, almost invincible, as if nothing in this barren land could break its silent vigil. And yet here you are talking to it. It might seem insane to anyone else, to speak to a plant, to seek comfort in the silence of a cactus. But in this desolation, loneliness gnaws as fiercely as thirst. You speak aloud, your voice dry and cracked from the arid air, sharing your worries and regrets, your fear of the wild and your desperate hope for survival. The cactus listens, or at least it seems so. You've got it easy, you whisper, wiping sweat from your brow. No predators sneaking up on you. No rattlesnakes coiled beneath your shadow, waiting to strike. You don't have to worry about scorpions crawling in the night, or the sun baking your skin raw. A sudden breeze rustles the needles, their sharp tips catching the light. For a fleeting moment, you imagine the cactus is nodding, acknowledging your confession with silent judgment. Its prickly armor warns you, out here, there's no room for weakness, no mercy for those who aren't tough enough to endure. You go on, telling the cactus about the endless sunburns that leave your skin raw and peeling, the thirst that grips your throat with merciless claws, and the fear that lurks behind every shadow. You describe the rattlesnakes that rattle their deadly warnings, the spiders and scorpions that come out when the desert cools, and the harsh reality that even water is a scarce treasure here, hidden and hard-won. The cactus stands firm, a monument to resilience and survival, storing precious water deep within its fleshy core, biding its time through droughts that could kill a less hardy creature. It's a master of this brutal landscape, shaped by hardship, armed with defenses, and ready to endure whatever nature throws its way. You realize your own frailty in comparison, how vulnerable you are in this endless desert, where the sun doesn't forgive and every step can lead to danger. The cactus, silent and stern, seems to silently mock your human frailty, reminding you that the desert respects only those who adapt or perish. You remember the old tales cowboys told, how cactus needles could pierce your skin like needles themselves, how some tried to use the tough plants for shelter or medicine but found only pain. You think of how the cactus doesn't complain, or move, or weaken. It simply survives, a living testament to the harshness of the Wild West. Talking to this plant becomes less about madness and more about connection, a way to anchor yourself in a world that otherwise feels empty and hostile. You confess your fears, your loneliness, your desperate need to find strength where there seems to be none. As the sun dips below the horizon, setting the sky ablaze with streaks of red, orange, and purple, the desert cools and shadows stretch long and deep. The cactus stands guard through the twilight, a steadfast companion in the vast silence. You settle down nearby, your back against a rock, and for a moment, you find comfort in the cactus's silent judgment. A reminder that if you want to survive this harsh land, you'll have to grow tough, resilient, and unyielding like it. The night falls cold and quiet, the stars piercing the black velvet sky like tiny pinpricks of hope. The desert breathes around you, alive and indifferent, and the cactus keeps its eternal watch, a silent witness to your confessions and your resolve to endure. Whiskey toothache. All your teeth hurt. Or maybe that was just sand. You wake up with a deep, relentless throb pulsing through your jaw, a dull but persistent ache that radiates from every tooth like tiny hammers tapping on your skull. Your mouth feels dry and gritty, coated with a rough layer of sand and dust that sticks stubbornly to your tongue and gums. You barely remember falling asleep, exhausted from the day's heat and hardships, and now this pain claws at you relentlessly. In the Wild West, pain is as common and unforgiving as the relentless sun beating down on the barren landscape. It's a daily companion, as natural as dust storms swirling in the dry air or rattlesnakes lurking under rocks, waiting for their chance. But this pain is special. It's the kind that steals your peace, gnaws at your patience, and makes every bite of food a challenge. You stumble out of your makeshift camp, the wooden floorboards of the nearby saloon creaking under your weight as you enter. The air inside is thick with the stale smell of whiskey, old sweat, and tobacco smoke. It hits you like a wall, acrid and choking. The bartender, a grizzled man with tired eyes and stained hands, looks up and nods silently, recognizing another soul battered by the harshness of frontier life. You request a shot of whiskey, hoping the familiar burn will somehow dull the gnawing ache in your mouth. But the moment the warm liquid slides down your throat, it feels like liquid fire. The pain intensifies, flaring up in your gums and teeth like a cruel joke. You grit your teeth, swallowing the burn, desperate for any relief. The reality of your situation sinks in. Your teeth have endured far worse than a simple ache. The desert's dry, dusty air has ground tiny particles of sand and grit into your mouth, scraping and wearing down your enamel over countless days. Meals are tough, coarse, dry, and full of sand that crunches between your teeth and scrapes your sensitive gums raw. Every bite sends sharp jolts of discomfort shooting through your jaw. You try to smile at a passing stranger, but the pain makes your mouth stiff and tight. Your lips crack in the dry heat, and your teeth ache like a chorus of tiny nails scraping inside your head. The old piano in the corner of the saloon plays a sad, ragged tune, off-key and broken, perfectly mirroring your own weary state. You think about the many men and women who have suffered through worse, who endured toothaches and infections without dentists or modern medicine. Out here, dental care is a cruel joke. When a tooth had to come out, it was done quickly, with little more than rusty pliers and a whispered prayer. There was no anesthesia, no antibiotics, just the raw, brutal extraction of a painful tooth. Desperately, you reach for a piece of hardtack, a dry, tough biscuit that was supposed to be a meal in a pinch. Instead of soothing your pain, it scrapes your teeth raw and sends fresh waves of agony coursing through your jaw. You try to wash it down with water, but clean water is a rare treasure in this dusty land. When you find it, it tastes metallic or stale, doing little to soothe your burning mouth. Outside, the relentless sun continues its unyielding assault, promising another brutal day of heat, dust, and discomfort. Your throat is parched, your lips cracked, and every breath you take tastes like sand and regret. You can almost feel the desert itself pressing down on you, a constant reminder of your vulnerability and the harshness of this unforgiving land. As the hours drag on, the ache in your teeth and jaw becomes a dull roar, a background noise that refuses to fade. You find yourself distracted, irritable, and exhausted. Even simple tasks feel monumental. You long for relief, for a moment of peace from this constant torment, but the frontier offers none. You wonder how many more days you can endure this whiskey toothache, this cruel combination of dehydration, grit, and frontier life grinding down your spirit. Maybe tomorrow the pain will lessen. Maybe it will only grow worse. But in the Wild West, pain is part of survival, a harsh companion that teaches you resilience, stubbornness, and the true meaning of grit. Where are my boots? And your bunkmate insists they were always his. The dawn breaks slow and dusty, pale light filtering through the cracked wooden slats of the rickety bunkhouse. You wake with a start, muscles stiff and aching from the hard plank beneath you, the rough blanket barely holding back the morning chill that creeps inside. The coarse wood smells faintly of sweat and stale tobacco, mingling with the scent of old leather and dust that settles everywhere out here. You stretch your cramped limbs, yawning, but then pause, a creeping unease spreading through you. Something's missing. Your boots. That crucial pair of tough, worn leather boots, your protection from the jagged rocks. Cacti thorns, and snakes that lurk in the dry scrub outside, are gone. Your feet, still sore from yesterday's long trek, now feel shockingly vulnerable, exposed to the dirt and grit that covers the floor. You glance sideways, eyes narrowing on your bunkmate. He's already lacing up a pair of boots that look suspiciously like yours, scuffed, dusty, and perfectly molded to your size. The man smirks, a crooked smile playing on his sunburnt face. His eyes gleam with something sharp and unrepentant as he casually shrugs and says, "Those been mine all along, friend." In the Wild West, boots aren't just shoes, they're a lifeline. Their armor against the merciless terrain, cactus spines, thorny bushes, venomous snakes, scalding desert sand, and jagged rocks that could shred your bare feet in moments. To lose your boots here is to lose a piece of your survival, to expose yourself to 1,000 tiny dangers that add up quickly. It's not just a comfort or fashion statement, it's a vital necessity. The bunkhouse feels stifling now, filled with the low murmurs of other men who are nursing their own hardships and wounds, eyes flicking between you and your bunkmate but choosing to stay silent. There's a heavy air of suspicion and self-interest hanging thick. Everyone here knows to watch their own backs, especially when supplies are scarce and tempers run hot. You realize, painfully, that in this unforgiving place, trust is a rare currency. Everyone looks out for themselves, and possessions can disappear as quickly as a sunset. Your bunkmate's bold claim that your boots were always his isn't just a casual lie, it's a declaration, a challenge. It's a reminder that ownership is often decided not by fairness or law, but by strength, cunning, or sheer audacity. You consider your options carefully. You could confront him, try to reason or bargain, but that might only escalate into a dangerous conflict. The walls here have ears, and fights often spiral out of control, sometimes ending with guns drawn or fists flying. You don't want to draw that kind of attention, but going without boots is equally perilous. Outside, the sun climbs higher, turning the dusty earth into a furnace. Every unprotected step will sting and burn, hot sand searing your soles, sharp rocks digging into tender skin, hidden scorpions and rattlesnakes waiting for a careless moment. The thought sends a shiver through you, mixed with frustration and desperation. Your bunkmate seems to savor your discomfort, the smug grin never leaving his face as he tightens his laces. It's clear he's not planning to give your boots back without a fight, and you're left to wrestle with a harsh truth. In this land of rough edges and rougher people, even something as simple as a pair of boots can turn into a battle. Your feet ache before you even step outside, and the loss gnaws at your confidence. The missing boots are more than just leather and soles. They're a symbol of your fragile grip on survival here, a reminder that out in the wild, nothing is guaranteed, and everything can be taken in a heartbeat. You know you have to find a way through this, whether by earning new boots, borrowing from a stranger, or standing your ground against your bunkmate's theft. But whatever you choose, today has already taught you the hard lesson that in the Wild West, every step you take comes with risk, and every possession can disappear just as easily as the morning mist. The lawman is useless, but he's very proud of his new pants. The sun blazes mercilessly above the dusty main street of this barely civilized town. The wooden sidewalks creak underfoot, the weathered signs of saloons, general stores, and stables swinging faintly in the dry breeze. You glance around, hoping for some semblance of order in this lawless sprawl, someone who might keep the peace or offer help when the inevitable chaos breaks loose. That's when you spot him, the lawman, the self-appointed guardian of this wild frontier outpost. He stands tall, chest puffed out, and a wide-brimmed hat shading his squinting eyes. What immediately catches your attention, however, isn't his badge or his revolver, it's his pants. Brand new. Sharp as a tack, with a crease so precise it looks out of place amid the grime and dust. He struts down the boardwalk like he owns the place, proud of his new trousers, despite the way the worn leather boots on his feet squeak awkwardly with every step. His coat is too small, his hat a little too big, but the pants, those pants, gleam with an almost comical sense of importance. You watch as a group of rowdy cowhands stumble out of the saloon, laughing and shouting, some already clearly drunk. The lawman straightens his posture, gripping his holstered revolver a little tighter. But when the troublemakers start pushing each other and throwing bottles, his confident swagger fades quickly. He attempts to shout orders, but his voice is weak, barely cutting through the raucous noise. His hand twitches near his gun, but he doesn't draw it. Maybe he's too inexperienced, or just too afraid to make a move. Instead, he nervously adjusts the cuffs of his fancy new pants, looking more like a man worried about his outfit than about maintaining order. The cowhands ignore him, their laughter turning to jeers aimed directly at the lawman. One of them kicks a barrel, spilling its contents across the wooden planks. Another picks up a bottle and hurls it against the wall near where the lawman stands, shattering glass and sending shards skittering near his boots. Despite the mounting chaos, the lawman remains frozen in place, face flushing red. His pride in his new pants seems to hold him back, a strange barrier between him and the harsh reality of his job. You realize with a sinking feeling that the lawman here is more of a figurehead than a protector. His badge doesn't carry weight. His gun rarely leaves its holster. And while he might look the part in his shiny new pants, when push comes to shove, he's utterly useless. Out here in the Wild West, law is often little more than a suggestion, and justice is frequently served by whoever has the quickest draw or the biggest gang. The lawman's fancy pants don't change that. You watch the disorder unfold, wondering if you'll ever find someone who can actually keep the peace, or if you'll have to rely on your own grit and luck to survive the next bar fight, shootout, or cattle stampede. The sun beats down harder, dust settling in your throat as the lawman, still clutching his pants with quiet desperation, finally steps back into the saloon, defeated for the day. You sleep with a knife now, and you're not sure why. Night falls fast and hard in the Wild West, dragging a deep darkness over the dusty town. The sun has vanished behind jagged cliffs, and a cold breeze snakes through the wooden streets and empty alleys. The quiet is deceptive. It's the kind of silence that presses down on your chest and makes your skin crawl. You're alone in your bunk, but something doesn't feel right. You reach over and clutch the cold metal handle of a knife you didn't have when you went to bed. You're not even sure when you picked it up. Maybe it was a quick grab when you heard the footsteps outside, or a nervous reflex from the stories you've heard. Stories of night riders, thieves, and worse, creeping through the darkness, waiting to strike. In this lawless place, no one sleeps soundly anymore. Everyone keeps a weapon close, even when the night seems still. The knife is heavy and solid in your hand, a small comfort against the unknown dangers lurking just beyond the wooden walls. You stare at the dull blade, its edge worn but sharp enough to draw blood. You wonder why you feel safer holding it, even if you don't remember exactly when it became part of your nightly routine. The bunkhouse creaks and groans as the wind picks up outside. Shadows dance on the walls, shaped by the flickering lanterns and the moonlight seeping through the cracks. Every creak sounds like footsteps, every gust of wind whispers threats. Your heartbeat races, loud in your ears, and your grip tightens on the knife. You think about the other men in the bunkhouse, some snoring softly, others tossing and turning, all clutching their own fears and makeshift weapons. It's a strange kind of camaraderie, forged not by friendship, but by shared vulnerability in a harsh and violent land. In the Wild West, danger isn't just a possibility, it's a certainty. Bandits, hostile natives, wild animals, and desperate men roam the nights, and the law is often nowhere to be found. You learn quickly that trust is a luxury you can't afford, and preparation means holding tight to any means of defense, no matter how small. You close your eyes briefly, but the image of a shadow moving just outside the window won't leave your mind. You wonder if it's just your imagination, or if the knife really does protect you, or maybe it's the only thing standing between you and a nightmare that could come at any moment. Sleep doesn't come easily now. Instead, you lie awake, knife in hand, caught between exhaustion and the ever-present fear that defines life in the Wild West. And somehow, even if you can't explain it, you know that you'll keep sleeping with that knife, because in this unforgiving land, you never know when you might need it. The wanted poster looks familiar, and unfortunately it's your face. You step off the creaking wooden sidewalk and into the small town's dusty square, where the sheriff's bulletin board stands like a grim monument to lawlessness. The heat presses down heavily, making the air shimmer with waves of dust and sun. The scent of sweat, horse leather, and faint smoke lingers in the air, an aroma as common here as the cracked earth beneath your boots. Townsfolk go about their business, but their eyes flicker to the board again and again, as if expecting something to change or explode. You approach the bulletin board with a sense of casual curiosity, brushing aside old notices about lost horses, announcements for upcoming cattle drives, and faded leaflets begging for help with harvests or debts. But then your breath catches sharply. One poster, bold and crude, printed on rough paper that's been pinned recently, stands out from the rest. The edges are curling slightly, dust-streaked, but the large, rough sketch drawn with charcoal or ink seems hauntingly familiar. You step closer, heart pounding harder with every step. Your eyes scan the handwritten text beneath the drawing. And there it is, your name, clear and unmistakable, scrawled in rough, hurried letters, wanted. The description beneath accuses you of crimes that send a cold shiver down your spine: robbery, horse theft, even murder. The sum offered for your capture or demise is enough to tempt every bounty hunter, outlaw, and desperate man who prowls these lands. The image on the poster might not be an exact likeness, but it's close enough: the rugged jawline, the worn hat, the tired eyes. Your face, staring back at you in black and white, outlined in thick strokes, is a warning to all who see it. This is a man to be feared, hunted, and avoided at all costs. You glance around nervously. Some townsfolk glance at you with cautious recognition. Others whisper behind cupped hands, their eyes darting between you and the poster. You can feel their judgment settle over you like a heavy cloak. Some nod knowingly, as if confirming a suspicion you never wanted to be true. Others avert their eyes, wary of attracting trouble by even acknowledging your presence. Being wanted on the Wild West frontier is a sentence far beyond mere accusation. It means being hunted relentlessly, not just by lawmen, but by every bounty hunter and mercenary hoping to claim the reward. It means no door is safe, no handshake genuine, no sleep without fear. It means every stranger on the street could be an enemy in disguise, every shadow concealing someone with a gun aimed squarely at your back. You touch the rough paper lightly, your fingers trembling as you trace the words. How did it come to this? Were you truly the villain this poster paints you to be? Or has some cruel twist of fate, a betrayal, or a misunderstanding left you marked for death? The uncertainty gnaws at you, as biting and relentless as the desert wind. Your mind races back over the last few weeks. The failed heist, the escape through barren canyons, the gunfight that left a man dead and no witnesses to tell the true story. Could you have been framed by a rival gang? Or is this the price you pay for living by your own rules in a land where law is nothing but an illusion? You remember the nights spent hiding in the shadows, the long days spent watching your back, never daring to get too comfortable. Now, with your face on that poster, your days of anonymity are over. You're marked, a target on every bounty hunter's map. You imagine the hunters coming for you, their boots thudding on wooden porches, their eyes cold and unyielding, their fingers itching to draw their revolvers. There's no escape here. No friendly town to run to. No safe haven to catch your breath. The weight of that knowledge presses down on you harder than the unforgiving sun. This is the Wild West, brutal, relentless, and unforgiving. Justice here is as fleeting as the dust in the wind, and survival depends on your wit, your gun, and a bit of luck, which, at this moment, feels farther away than ever. You swallow hard, fighting the panic rising in your chest. The townsfolk watch silently as you slowly step back from the bulletin board, the image of your own wanted face burned into your mind. You know that from this moment on, your life changes forever. Every step outside is a gamble. Every friendly face could turn into a threat. You try to steel yourself for what comes next, but deep down, a cold question lingers. Will you survive long enough to clear your name? Or is this poster just the beginning of the end? Coyotes are louder than you thought, and they aren't laughing. They're judging. The sun has finally slipped beneath the jagged horizon, leaving behind a sky painted with deep purples and fiery oranges that fades slowly into the vast blackness of night. The stars begin to prick through the inky veil, distant and cold, indifferent to the fragile life flickering beneath them. You settle near your small campfire, the flames crackling softly as they struggle to push back the darkness. The air cools rapidly as the desert night closes in, wrapping you in a chill that seeps into your bones. For a moment, the world feels silent, too silent. But then, from somewhere beyond the flickering glow, the first sound cuts through the stillness, a sharp, piercing yip that slices the quiet like a knife. You freeze, every sense alert. The sound repeats, answered by another yip, then another, until the night fills with a chorus of eerie howls and barks that bounce off the canyon walls and rustle through the dry sagebrush. The coyotes have arrived. Their cries are not playful, nor are they friendly. These are the harsh, raw voices of the wilderness itself, cold, judgmental, unrelenting. It's as if the coyotes are mocking you, calling out your weaknesses, your fumbling attempts to survive in a land that refuses mercy. They aren't laughing, they're judging. You scan the shadows beyond your firelight, imagining pairs of gleaming eyes watching you from the darkness, shadows slipping silently through the brush. Coyotes move with cunning and precision. They are survivors, quick and clever, masters of the harsh desert terrain. Alone, you are no match for their silent packs. Your fingers tighten around your rifle, though you know it's little comfort. These creatures aren't just physical threats. Their eerie howls gnaw at your courage, stirring ancient fears you thought you'd left behind. Their voices weave a dark spell that wraps around your mind, reminding you that you are an outsider here, fragile and vulnerable. The howling swells, rising in a rhythmic call and response that echoes like a ghostly symphony around your campfire. It feels as though the coyotes are speaking in a language you cannot understand, but the message is clear: you are being watched, tested, weighed. Every yip and bark is a sharp-edged judgment of your presence, a warning that you do not belong. You remember the warnings from other travelers' tales told in nearby towns, stories of folks caught off guard by packs of coyotes descending under moonlight, stealing horses, scattering cattle, sometimes even killing when hunger or desperation took hold. But coyotes don't only hunt for food, they prey on fear itself. They circle around confusion and hesitation, sensing weakness, and waiting for the moment to strike. Their howls are the soundtrack of the wild night, relentless reminders that this land belongs to no one, least of all to you. As you lie back on the rough, dusty ground, staring up at the stars shimmering coldly above, the coyote chorus continues unabated, filling the night air with a primal rhythm that burrows deep into your bones. It is a haunting reminder that you are never truly alone out here. The Wild West watches, waits, and judges with a relentless, unforgiving gaze. Survival here means more than holding a gun steady or riding a horse fast. It means learning to listen, truly listen, to the wild world around you, to respect its dangers and understand that sometimes the most terrifying threats are the unseen ones, whispering just beyond the firelight, waiting for you to slip. Tonight the coyotes watch, and they remember. No one bathes on Tuesdays, but you pick Tuesday. You wake up on a dry, dusty Tuesday morning in a town that looks like it was forgotten by time, wooden planks cracked underfoot, buildings faded and bleached by the relentless sun, and a cloud of dust hanging heavy in the air. The heat hits you instantly, harsh and unrelenting, pressing down like a weight you can't shrug off. The townsfolk shuffle slowly along the wooden sidewalks, their faces coated with a fine layer of grime that tells stories of days, maybe weeks, without a proper wash. Clothes cling stiffly to their backs, stiffened and faded by the unending dust. You notice something out right away. Nobody is heading for the water troughs or the communal wash basins scattered near the general store or outside the saloon. No one is washing up today. Everyone avoids the water, and you overhear the whispered explanation. No one bathes on Tuesdays. It's not just superstition, it's a hard-earned rule in this unforgiving place. You figure, well, how bad could a little dirt be? You decide to wash up anyway. But choosing Tuesday for your bath is like signing up for a punishment you didn't know you deserved. The water you find is cold and barely more than a trickle. The trough is shared by horses, dogs, and sometimes wandering cattle, and it carries the unmistakable scent of hay, sweat, and a faint sour tang of stagnant water. When you dip your hands in, the surface ripples with floating dust and bits of dried leaves. You try to splash it on your face, arms, and neck, but the grime clings stubbornly to your skin, as if mocking your feeble attempt to scrub away the dirt of weeks. Nearby, you catch the faint sound of snickering and whispers. The locals glance at you with a mix of pity and amusement. They know better. Tuesdays are infamous. It's the day the town's water supply runs lowest. Maybe the wells are being repaired, or the water carts have gone off to other towns for deliveries. or the water has just been sitting too long in barrels and troughs, growing stale and unsafe. Bathing on a Tuesday is an act of desperation, or worse, ignorance. Still, you push on. The dust is everywhere. It settles into your hair, dries on your cracked lips, and coats your clothes with a dull, gray film. You can feel it gritty in your mouth and throat with every breath. The heat makes you sweat, but the sweat only mixes with the dust to create a layer of grime that refuses to wash away. You wander toward the saloon, hoping a shot of whiskey might help you forget your discomfort. But even the air inside is thick with dust and stale smoke. The whiskey tastes flat, as if it's been sitting under a thin crust of desert grit. Every movement kicks up little clouds of dust that make your eyes itch and sting. You realize that your attempts to freshen up have only highlighted how hopelessly out of place you are here, an outsider trying to wrestle with a world that runs on different rules, rules born of hardship, survival, and stubborn endurance. The day drags on like a slow fever. The sun beats down mercilessly, and every cough or sneeze sends a tiny storm of dust swirling in the air. By afternoon, your skin itches fiercely, raw and cracked from the relentless dryness and unyielding dirt. The idea of a bath on any day other than Tuesday feels like a distant dream, a luxury you may never enjoy again. You watch as the townsfolk go about their business, accepting the dust and dirt as part of life, a badge of honor, almost earned by surviving in this harsh, unforgiving land. No one bathes on Tuesdays because they have to ration the precious water carefully. Clean water is a treasure here, and using it recklessly on the wrong day could bring sickness or worse. As the sun sets and you lie on your bunk, the dirt and sweat baked into your skin, you realize that in the Wild West, even something as simple as bathing is a strategic choice. Every drop of water must be saved, every routine adjusted to the harsh rhythm of survival. It's a small lesson with a big price, and you've just learned it the hard way. Your mule hates you, and he makes that very clear. You wake up just before dawn, the desert chill still clinging to the air, and stretch out aching muscles that remind you how unforgiving the trail really is. The night was cold and restless, the thin canvas of your tent barely keeping out the whistling wind and the distant calls of coyotes. Your mule stands nearby, quiet but unmistakably scornful, casting long shadows in the faint morning light. His big brown eyes watch you like a judge who has already made up his mind. He does not like you. Not one bit. From the very first moment you were saddled with this stubborn beast, things have been an uphill battle. You thought you were ready for the challenge. The townsfolk had said mules were tough but reliable. But your mule? He's something else entirely. Maybe it was the way you fumbled with the reins that first day, or how you tried to bribe him with a handful of oats that had seen better days. Whatever it was, your mule's behavior has screamed loud and clear. I am in charge here, and I will make your life difficult. You try to coax him forward. You tug the reins gently, then harder, hoping for a smooth start to the day. Instead, he plants his hooves firmly on the rocky ground and lets out a long, disgruntled bray. It's as if he's mocking your efforts, deliberately refusing to budge. The stubbornness radiates off him in waves. Every step forward is earned through silent protest, a battle of wills played out in the quiet, sun-drenched plains. As the sun begins to rise, the sky blazes a harsh orange, promising a sweltering day ahead. You sweat beneath your hat, muscles tightening with each slow, reluctant step your mule takes. He refuses to cross certain rocky patches, stopping abruptly to nibble on the sparse, thorny desert brush, ignoring your frustrated commands. Every time you try to urge him onward, he gives a sideways kick, a reminder that this is his journey, not yours. You remember the warnings. Mules have minds of their own, the locals said with knowing grins. They don't care about your plans, your schedule, or your tired muscles. You'll learn that soon enough. Now you understand exactly what they meant. Your mule is not a partner, but a stubborn obstacle, one who tests your patience with every stubborn bray and every deliberate pause. By midday you're drained. Your legs ache from balancing atop a creature who seems hellbent on proving his independence. Sweat stings your eyes as the dry desert wind kicks up dust, settling into every crevice of your skin and clothes. You're forced to take breaks, not because you're tired, but because your mule refuses to move a muscle. The longer you stand there, the more you realize how little control you have. Even when you manage to get him moving again, it's with a grudging shuffle, as if each step is a personal insult to his dignity. He refuses to hurry, or even walk at a steady pace. The trail ahead is long and unforgiving, and your stubborn mule insists on making it feel twice as difficult. As the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the dusty earth, you finally set up camp again. Your mule, now seemingly indifferent to your commands, lies down with a disgruntled grunt, ears flicking away flies. You watch him settle under the vast sky, the stars slowly emerging, feeling an odd mixture of defeat and reluctant respect. It's clear he's not just an animal you ride, he's a character with his own agenda. You realize that in the Wild West, survival isn't just about avoiding bandits, rattlesnakes, or dust storms. Sometimes the toughest battles are the ones you fight with the animals you depend on. Your mule may hate you, but you need him just as much as he needs you, even if he's not quite willing to admit it. Tumbleweed philosophy. Everything that rolls past has a better life than you. You slump down on the parched earth by the dusty trail, your boots caked in the thick, powdery dust of the frontier. The relentless sun beats down without mercy, draining every ounce of strength and hope you have left. Your back aches from the hard ride, your throat burns with thirst, and your eyes squint against the shimmering heat waves rising off the dry ground. Around you, the landscape stretches vast and unforgiving, a barren wilderness of cracked dirt, thorny bushes, and lonely cacti. And then your gaze falls on the tumbleweeds. They are everywhere, those ragged, thorny balls of dry branches, carelessly bouncing and spinning across the plains like wild vagabonds of the desert. They tumble past in ceaseless waves, driven by the fickle whims of the wind, rolling freely over rocks, through sagebrush, and past forgotten remnants of old homesteads. You watch them float by, twisting and turning, sometimes soaring high with a gust, other times dragging slowly across the ground. There's a strange allure to their freedom. These tumbleweeds don't have to worry about the grinding hardships you face every day, the broken wagon wheels, the endless miles, the constant fear of rattlesnakes or worse. They don't need food, water, or shelter. They just exist in the moment, drifting wherever the wind takes them, carried by invisible currents that don't ask for permission or effort. Their lives seem simple, uncomplicated by the harsh realities that chain you down. For a brief moment, you envy them. You wonder what it would be like to live untethered, to let the wind decide your path without protest or pain, to roll with the punches, literally and figuratively, without fretting about the next meal or the next gunfight. These dry, thorny spheres embody a wild, chaotic freedom you crave, a kind of raw survival that's less about control and more about surrender. Yet as you watch the tumbleweeds bounce and spin past, a deeper thought settles in. This freedom, as enviable as it seems, is also lonely and aimless. They have no roots, no home, no destination. Their journey is endless wandering, with no hand to guide them and no plan to follow. They're at the mercy of forces far beyond themselves, the winds of fate, the cruelty of the weather, the scars of the land. You realize that maybe the tumbleweeds aren't so different from you after all. You, too, are a wanderer, pushed and pulled by circumstances outside your control. Your stubborn mule, your broken gear, the merciless sun and dust storms, they're all part of this wild, unpredictable world that refuses to bend to your will. Like the tumbleweeds, You are swept along by the chaos, trying to survive one day at a time. The sun lowers, casting long shadows that stretch like ghosts across the empty plains. The air cools, but the silence remains heavy. The tumbleweeds keep rolling past, relentless, silent, solitary, reminding you of the harsh truth. In the Wild West, control is an illusion, and survival is about persistence, adaptation, and sometimes simply letting go. As night falls and the stars emerge, you sit quietly, the tumbleweed's endless journey echoing in your mind. Maybe, just maybe, the philosophy of the tumbleweed is the only way to make it here. Keep rolling, keep moving, no matter how rough the path or how fierce the wind. Because sometimes, survival means accepting the wild ride, even when it's out of your hands. You try to escape, but it's already too late. The relentless sun scorches the barren landscape, turning the cracked earth beneath your feet into a furnace. You stand there, drenched in sweat, your breath ragged, heart pounding so loud it drowns out even the howling wind. The dusty air chokes your lungs, filling your mouth with grit as you realize the dreadful truth. It's already too late to run. The Wild West has you cornered, and escape is nothing but a fading, impossible dream. Your muscles scream in protest when you try to move, legs heavy and unsteady from exhaustion, dehydration, and fear. The adrenaline surging through your veins battles with the fatigue that drags you down like quicksand. Every second feels stretched thin, as if time itself is mocking you, the past catching up, the future closing in like a noose tightening around your neck. Behind you, the distant clatter of hooves grows louder and more urgent, echoing off the jagged rocks and dry hills like thunder heralding your doom. The voices, once faint, now roar with rage and hatred, men who want nothing more than to see you broken, captured, or dead. They shout orders, curse, and laugh cruelly, their intent as clear as the blazing sun overhead. It doesn't matter if they're lawmen or outlaws. Their pursuit is relentless, unforgiving. Your mind races through every mistake you made to get here, the bad deals, the reckless words, the wrong side of the law. You remember the tense moments in the saloon when tempers flared, the ill-fated choice to cross a ruthless gang, the forgotten warning signs you ignored. All of it rushes back, a painful montage of errors, and now the price is coming due. You desperately scan your surroundings for any sign of refuge, a crevice in the rocks, a thicket of scrub brush, a cave hidden beneath a cliff, but the landscape offers nothing but barren emptiness. The merciless open plains stretch out in every direction, a vast, indifferent desert with no place to hide. The horizon burns with heat and dust, the sky an endless canvas of harsh blue that offers no shelter from your pursuers. Fumbling with your revolver, your fingers tremble so badly that you can barely pull the trigger. The rusty old weapon jams with a sickening click. Of course it does. The Wild West is cruel that way. When you need your tools most, they betray you. You stare at the gun in disbelief, a bitter mix of frustration and fear tightening in your chest. The sound of hoofbeats is now deafening, pounding like a death march behind you. You risk a glance over your shoulder and catch sight of grim faces, sunburned and lined with years of hard living, eyes cold and merciless. They close in like vultures circling their prey, each step stealing your last shred of hope. Your breath catches as the first bullets whistle through the air, kicking up clouds of dust at your feet. Panic threatens to overwhelm you, but you force yourself to stay focused, to look for any slim chance of survival. Maybe if you throw down your weapon, plead for mercy, or disappear into the shadows, you might be spared. But deep down, you know better. The West doesn't forgive. It doesn't forget. It devours the weak and leaves no room for second chances. Your feet scrape the dry earth as you stumble forward, lungs burning, mind screaming for a miracle. But there is none. The chase is over. The cold grip of defeat wraps around you tighter than the scorching sun above. The dust settles around your collapsing figure, the harsh reality sinking in. In this unforgiving land, sometimes escape is just an illusion. As night falls, the silence that follows is as heavy as the desert heat. The stars emerge like distant, cold witnesses to your downfall. Somewhere in the darkness, the tumbleweeds keep rolling on, free and aimless, a stark contrast to your fate, trapped and broken beneath the vast, indifferent sky. You close your eyes and wonder if, in some other life, far from this ruthless wilderness, you might find peace. But here, in the Wild West, survival is a cruel game, and today you lost. The town has forgotten you, and left debt in your name. The dusty streets stretch out under a blazing sun, the wooden boards of the sidewalks creaking softly beneath the sparse footsteps of a few indifferent townsfolk. The saloon doors swing lazily in the dry wind, and the faint murmur of distant conversations barely reaches your ears. You walk down the main street, but no one looks your way. It's as if the town itself has swallowed you whole and spat you out, forgotten, invisible, erased from memory. You clutch your hat tighter against the heat and grit, feeling the weight of an invisible burden settling heavier than the midday sun. You're not just forgotten, you're forgotten with a price. A debt. A name dragged through the dirt and scribbled onto ledgers in the shadows where no one bothers to look. Bills, fines, missed payments, and promises you never made, all piled high, all in your name. The saloon keeper glances at you with thinly veiled contempt, his eyes calculating, measuring your worth in coins and curses. The general store owner shakes his head and mutters under his breath about deadbeats and troublemakers. Even the preacher, who once offered hope, now avoids your gaze as he cleans his stained collar. You try to explain, plead, even, but words fall flat in the dusty air. The town council met long ago and decided, you are a liability, a stain on their tidy streets and shining reputations. Your name is a mark against the community ledger, a line on a list of those who failed to pay their dues and honor their debts. Whether the debt was real or imagined, whether it was a simple misunderstanding or a cruel trick, none here care enough to ask. You are an outcast. In the town's eyes, you are a failure, someone who couldn't keep pace with the harsh rules of survival. The unforgiving frontier has no room for those who fall behind, who stumble, who become lost in the cracks of its relentless march forward. The fences around the town grow higher, the doors more tightly shut, and your place on the margins more permanent with every passing day. You find yourself wandering past the old bank building, its windows boarded up, the heavy safe still locked tight but empty of mercy. This town once thrived on the backs of hardworking folk, miners, ranchers, traders, all bound by promises and debts. Now those promises feel like chains wrapped around your ankles, dragging you deeper into the dust. Your bedroll lies abandoned outside a forgotten stable, your belongings reduced to a small bundle of worn clothes and fading memories. You are no longer welcome in the warm hearths or the crowded church pews. The children avoid you, and the dogs bark at your approach. Night falls like a shroud, and with it comes the cold loneliness of being truly forgotten. The stars burn cold and distant overhead, indifferent witnesses to your silent suffering. You curl into yourself, the chill seeping into your bones. In this town, you are a ghost, a name scratched onto a crumbling ledger and left to fade into the endless dust. The debt isn't just money. It's the price of invisibility, the cost of being erased from a world that moves on without you. The Wild West might be full of opportunity and adventure for some, but for those like you, forgotten, indebted, alone, it is a graveyard of hopes and dreams, buried beneath the unforgiving sun. You ride into the sunset. Alone, too dirty to be romantic. The sun hangs low in the sky, bleeding orange and crimson over the endless horizon. You sit atop your weary horse, its flanks slick with sweat, the leather saddle creaking under your weight. The wind tugs at your coat, swirling dust into your eyes, scratching at your skin like 1,000 tiny knives. You try to straighten your hat, but it's smeared with dirt and sweat, as if it's been glued to your head since dawn. This isn't the romantic ride into the sunset you imagined as a kid. No, this is a hard, gritty farewell, the kind the Wild West deals out with no mercy and no poetry. Around you, the landscape stretches barren and unforgiving. The towns you pass through are nothing but faded memories, saloons with broken doors, empty streets where laughter once echoed, and faces that never really saw you. No one rode alongside you to cheer your triumphs or mourn your losses. You are utterly alone, a speck on the vast, indifferent plains. Your horse snorts and shifts nervously, sensing your exhaustion. Its hooves kick up clouds of dry dust that cling to your boots, your clothes, your skin. You feel grime settled into every crevice, the dried sweat, the dirt, the remnants of campfires and long miles traveled under a scorching sun. You stink of hard labor, of fear, and of failure. You think back to the stories told in those old dime novels, where heroes galloped off into sunsets with smiles and hope in their eyes. You chuckle bitterly. None of that happened for you. The West didn't care about your dreams or your hopes. It only cared about survival, and you barely made it. There's no crowd waiting for you at the end of this ride. No waving hats or cheers, no tender embraces or happy reunions. Just the endless horizon stretching before you, and the lonely road behind. You are a shadow, moving forward only because stopping means giving up. Yet, in this lonely ride, there's a strange kind of freedom. The weight of the town's judgments, the debts, the failures, all fall away with every mile. The dust on your skin is a badge of endurance, a testament to the harsh journey you've survived. You may be dirty, beaten, and alone, but you are still riding, still moving forward. The sun dips below the horizon, and the sky darkens into a canvas of stars. Your horse slows to a weary trot, and you let yourself breathe, just for a moment. The West is ruthless, but you're still here, still alive. And somehow, in that, there's a small, stubborn spark of hope. Thank you for riding along with this journey into the harsh, unforgiving Wild West. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of survival, struggle, and the unexpected truths behind the legends, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Tell me what part of the Wild West surprised you the most, or share your own survival stories. Until next time, keep your boots dusty and your spirit unbroken.